Well, howdy, friend, and welcome back to Country Strong TV, where we dive into the feats of strength and grit so mighty they make a bull stomp look like a gentle tail. Today, we're talking about the biggest, brawniest fellas on the gridiron, the NFL linemen. Now, if you've ever watched a football game, you probably fixate on wherever the ball is going. But if you pay real close attention to the gargantuan beings towing the line, you'll think, good gravy, them fellas big enough to block out the sun. Because these titans of the turf are the human equivalent of a battering ram crossed with a steel wall. These men are the backbone of every play. Without them, football couldn't be the bone-crunching, hard-hitting spectacle that so many of us love. Today, we're digging into the history books to find the biggest, most country-strong linemen to ever squeeze their thunderous thighs into a pair of football pants. We'll also take a peek at the caloric demands it takes to keep these big boys fueled up.
Hey, somebody bring me a Diet Coke.
So grab yourself a glass of sweet tea and get comfy, because we're about to wrangle up some country-strong facts on the mightiest creatures to ever step foot on a football field. But before we get down into our three-point stance and run wild, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any country-strong videos. Now, we clearly have to talk about size. It's kind of the elephant in the room. In the 2024 season, the average weight of a lineman is 305.42 pounds. Yeah, I did the math down to the hundredth of a pound, with offensive guards taking the biggest slice of cake with an average positional weight of 314.5 pounds. But that's just an average. The heaviest of them all this season is none other than Cincinnati Bengals offensive tackle Trent Brown, with a stupendously massive 380 pounds hanging on a 6'8" frame. Now, unfortunately for Big Trent, he did suffer a season-ending injury after tearing his patellar tendon. But can you blame that poor tendon? Them things have to support 380 pounds in the most rough and tough environment a human can find themselves in. Now, I know what y'all might be thinking. An NFL lineman just stuffs their face with whatever they can get their hands on to power through 60 minutes of crunching helmets and pancake blocks. But let me tell you what, it's a whole lot more scientific than that. These fellas don't just eat big, they eat smart. And nobody does it better than Eagles right tackle Lane Johnson. This country-strong lineman, standing tall at 6'6" and packing 325 pounds of pure muscle, has a diet so dialed in it could make a nutritionist blush. His chef, Justin Massey, keeps him fed on 4,000 calories a day. And what's on the menu? Oh, it's meat and taters, baby. The good stuff, cleaned up and fine-tuned for maximum strength. Take chicken fried steak, for example. Instead of battering it with all-purpose flour and dropping it into a deep-fried oil bath, Chef Massey uses fancy flours like oat and quinoa and fries it up in avocado oil. And here's the kicker. This ain't just about eating good, it's about performing great. Lane hasn't given up a sack since 2020. Shucks, instead of masks, we should have all worn a Lane Johnson on our face to avoid getting sick. Now let's break down a typical day's meal real quick.
Breakfast:
eggs, bacon, and protein waffles, country strong and hearty. Lunch: a fried chicken BLT sandwich with roasted taters on the side. And for dinner, a ribeye steak with sweet and spicy sauce and candied sweet potatoes. So folks, let's get something straight. These boys are big. I mean country strong big. But they weren't always this way. Back in the day, the fellas hitting the gridiron were as tough as nails, no doubt about that. But they weren't exactly the mountainous men we see today. Take Wilbur Pete Henry, a Hall of Famer from the 1920s. At 5'11" and 245 pounds, he was considered one of the biggest players in the league. And because of his size, they called him Fats. Now don't get me wrong, Pete was a legend for his time. But if you tried to put him in today's NFL lineman, he'd get laughed at to the tailgate party. Now a lot has changed in 100 years. Maybe it's all the microplastics collecting down in our britches. or just the simple fact that today's players probably ran their first sled drill on their way out of the womb. But one thing's for sure, people have gotten bigger, stronger, and faster. Now don't get me wrong, Trent Brown might be the biggest fella in today's game, but he ain't the biggest ever. Oh no, we're talking about the true titans of the gridiron, the heaviest, most gargantuan players in NFL history. Let's take a look at the top 5 biggest linemen to ever strap on a helmet. Starting with a name as iconic as his size, Super Bowl champion William Perry. At 382 pounds, they called him the Refrigerator. And this wasn't just a guy blocking and tackling. They actually handed him the ball. That's right, a fridge with legs charging at the end zone. Is your refrigerator running? Well, probably not like old Perry was. Next up is another Super Bowl champ, Bryant McKinnie. This mountain of a man tipped the scales at 386 pounds and played nearly 200 games, including Super Bowl 47 with the Baltimore Ravens. But B-Mac wasn't just known for his time on the field. You see, back in 2008, he missed a few games after allegedly getting into a scuffle with the Miami nightclub bouncer. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'd love to shake the hand of the brave soul who thought it was a good idea to square up against a 6'8", 386-pound behemoth. Now, pushing past the 400-pound mark, we've got 3-time Super Bowl champion Nate Newton. The Cowboys legend maxed out at 401 pounds and played during the same era as William Perry. Now, if Perry was a refrigerator, you better believe the media needed a nickname even bigger for Newton. So what did they call him? The Kitchen. Now, not just the fridge, the whole dang setup. Sink, stove, dishwasher, plates, utensils, hell, even the napkin holder. Now, after his playing days, Newton decided to downsize a bit. He underwent a vertical gastrectomy, which casually involved removing 75% of his stomach. It's no big deal. And now, Nate Newton's walking around at his 8th grade weight of 220 pounds. From a kitchen on an NFL field to a little old kitchenette in retirement. Now, we've covered Super Bowl champions thus far, but sheer size doesn't always equate to gridiron greatness. Enter Terrell Bragg. At 6'10" and 403-pound country strong, he was almost too big to even play football. His college coach once said that Brown's size made it hard for him to bend down low or even burst out of his stance. And honestly, it sounds like he might have been right. Now, I couldn't find much about his NFL career, but I do know this: Brown is still out there, walking among us, shaking the ground with every step. And now the grand finale, the biggest of them all, the top of the food chain, is none other than... Wait, did I remind you to subscribe to the channel? I think I did. Anyways, Aaron Gibson holds the title as the heaviest NFL player in history, clocking in at a jaw-dropping 410 pounds. Now, Gibson's story ain't all glory. He grew up poor, eating whatever scraps were left over after his parents had their share. However, by high school, he was already up to 420 pounds. And when he got to the University of Wisconsin, the sheer availability of food was like nothing he'd ever experienced before. And he took advantage of that, let me tell you what. He estimated that during this time, he consumed 30,000 calories per day. The sheer amount of food this man was consuming is what you'd need if you were, say, plowing fields with a team of oxen. Except Aaron Gibson was the ox. Now, Aaron Gibson's story isn't just about being the heaviest NFL player ever. Let me remind you, 410 pounds. It's about the toll that size and football took on his body and his life. Now, as a rookie, the Detroit Lions fined him $80,000 for missing his weight goal. and the weekly weigh-ins forced him to resort to extreme measures. He'd take diuretics, spend hours sweating in saunas, wear plastic bag pants, and ride a stationary bike just to shed 20 pounds of water weight in time for weigh-ins. But by Sunday, he'd be back on the field playing nearly at 400 pounds, a size that made his NFL career both remarkable and devastating. The physical strain began almost immediately. In his rookie season, a brutal collision dislocated his shoulder and shredded his rotator cuff. Another hit later snapped his right shoulder completely, sending blood running down his back. Now, by the time his NFL career ended in 2006, Gibson's body was a wreck. His playing weight ballooned to nearly 480 pounds, and his dependence on painkillers spiraled out of control. After football, life didn't get easier. Living alone, he relied on fast food for comfort, and his health deteriorated rapidly. Diabetes loomed, his joints screamed in pain, and depression nearly claimed his life. But in 2013, a chance encounter with Bridget, now his wife, changed everything. With her support, Aaron slowly transformed his diet and began losing weight. Now, over the next few years, he dropped nearly 200 pounds, finding health and a new sense of purpose. Though his body remains battered and the pain never fully goes away, Aaron Gibson is a testament to resilience. His story is a reminder of the immense physical and emotional costs of football, and how strength isn't just about what you can carry, but what you can overcome. And there you have it, folks. The towering, thunderous story of the NFL's biggest lineman, past and present. From Lane Johnson's perfectly dialed in diet to Aaron Gibson's battle with his own size and the sacrifices of playing at the edge of human capacity. These men represent the grit and grind of the gridiron in ways that go beyond the scoreboard. It's easy to look at their size and see nothing but power, but behind every pancake block and quarterback sack, there's a story of discipline, struggle, and resilience. These are the Titans who have shaped the game, literally and figuratively, one bone-crunching play at a time. So the next time you're watching a football game, don't just follow the ball. Take a second to appreciate the big men in the trenches, digging their cleats in, sacrificing their bodies, and carrying the weight of the game, sometimes quite literally. Thanks for stopping by Country Strong TV, and hey, be sure to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed this dive into the massive world of the NFL lineman. Until next time, stay strong, stay country, and I'll see you in the next one. To a quarterback sack. Son of a bitch. I dropped my thing. Oh man, it's still going. Oh no, it died. Did I break it? Where did I drop this damn thing? Average